I'm BC Begley, and these are your news headlines for October the 7th of 2022. President Biden says nuclear Armageddon risk is the highest since the '62 crisis. President Joe Biden is declaring that the risk of nuclear Armageddon is at the highest level since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, as Russian officials speak of using tactical nuclear weapons after suffering massive setbacks in the 8-month invasion of Ukraine. Speaking at a Democratic fundraiser, President Biden said on Thursday night that Russian President Vladimir Putin is, quote, a guy I know fairly well, and the Russian leader is, quote, not joking when he talks about the use of tactical nuclear weapons or biological or chemical weapons, Biden added. Quote, we have not faced the prospect of Armageddon since Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis. He suggested the threat from Putin is real, quote, because his military is, you might say, significantly underperforming. U.S. officials for months have warned of the prospect that Russia could use weapons of mass destruction in Ukraine as it has faced strategic setbacks on the battlefield, though President Biden's remarks marked the starkest warnings yet by the U.S. government about the nuclear stakes. Panic at a New York City Union Square subway after unknown substance causes passengers to cough and vomit. An unknown substance released on a subway platform has caused several passengers to vomit and cough uncontrollably as police halt service at the station. The terrifying incident unfolded inside Manhattan's 14th Street Union Square subway station on Friday morning. The New York City Police Department said its first responders observed several sick passengers vomiting and coughing violently after an unknown substance was released on the platform. The FDNY said they received reports about a suspect spraying mace on the platform. One person was taken to Bellevue Hospital for treatment, per the Fire Department of New York. Service at Union Square has since been halted as the Metropolitan Transportation Authority advised riders to avoid the station. Prosecutors hold off final Hunter Biden case decision amid talks with defense lawyers. Prosecutors are holding off on a final decision on whether to bring a case against President Biden's son Hunter while they review defense evidence in the long-running investigation, according to people familiar with the matter. Investigators for months have believed there is enough evidence to charge the younger Biden with tax crimes and a false statement related to a gun he purchased, and had expected a case to be brought by the end of the summer. Prosecutors from the United States Attorney's Office in Delaware, which has been leading the investigation, are struggling with certain facts, such as his well-documented drug addiction, would present a defense against a potential criminal tax case. Mr. Biden's defense team met with Justice Department prosecutors in recent weeks, trying to counter the government's potential case. The decision of whether to bring any charges would be up to the prosecutors, who must assess whether they think that evidence is strong enough to win a conviction at a trial. Italy's far-right Maloney angered by French threat. Maloney, whose Brothers of Italy party won last month's general election, has demanded an explanation after a French minister suggested rights may be at risk under the incoming government. European Affairs Minister Laurence Boone told the Repubblica Daily that Paris would, quote, pay close attention to the respect for values and the rule of law once the new government is sworn in. Quote, the EU has already demonstrated its vigilance toward other countries, such as Hungary and Poland, Boone added in the interview published on Friday, citing the two Eurosceptic governments that have clashed with Brussels over civil rights. Maloney said the comments appeared to be a, quote, an unacceptable threat of interference against a sovereign member state of the European Union. Quote, I trust that the French government will immediately deny the words, Maloney said, adding she hoped the left-wing Daily had in fact misrepresented Boone's meaning. Tropical storm Julia forms off of Colombia, expected to become a hurricane. Tropical storm Julia, the 10th named storm of the season, formed Friday morning off the coast of Colombia and is expected to strengthen into a hurricane sometime this weekend, authorities have said. At around 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday, Julia was about 110 miles west of South America's northernmost point in the Guajara Peninsula in Colombia. It had maximum sustained winds of around 40 miles per hour and tropical storm force winds extending outward up to 80 miles from the storm's center. The system was moving west at 18 miles per hour, and that general motion was expected to continue through Sunday, the NHC said. Ukraine city takes more hits as apartment attack deaths rise. The death toll from a missile attack on apartment buildings in a southern Ukrainian city rose to 11 as more Russian missiles, and for the first time, explosive-packed drones targeted Ukraine-held Zaporizhia on Friday. Fighting near the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant has alarmed the United Nations Atomic Energy Watchdog. An accident there could release 10 times the amount of potentially lethal radioactivity than the world's worst nuclear accident did in Chernobyl 36 years ago, the Ukrainian Environmental Protection Minister said on Friday. With its army losing ground to a Ukrainian counteroffensive in the country's south and east, Russia has deployed Iranian-made drones to attack Ukrainian targets. The unmanned, disposable, quote, kamikaze drones are cheaper and less sophisticated than missiles, but have proved effective at causing damage to targets on the ground. Nika Shakarami's mother says her daughter was murdered during the Iranian protest. The mother of a teenage girl who died during protest in Iran has accused authorities of murdering her daughter. In a video sent to U.S.-funded Radio Farda, Nasrin Sakarami said she had seen injuries on her daughter's body which contradict an official statement. Authorities say Nika Shakarami, 16, appears to have been thrown from a building, possibly by workmen. Meanwhile, an official forensic report has said a woman whose death sparked the protest died from ill health. The family of Masha Amini, a 22-year-old Iranian Kurd, say she died as a result of being beaten by the morality police. She was detained back on the 13th of September in Tehran for allegedly breaking the strict law requiring women to cover their hair with a hijab or headscarf. The police denied that she was mistreated and have said that she died suffering a heart attack. UN Rights Council rejects debate on China's abuses in Xinjiang. The United Nations Rights Council on Thursday voted down a Western-led motion to hold a debate about alleged human rights abuses by China against the Uyghurs and other Muslims in Xinjiang in a victory for Beijing, as it seeks to avoid further scrutiny. The defeat, 19 voted against, 17 voted for, and 11 abstained, is only the second time in the Council's 16-year history that a motion has been rejected and is seen by observers as a setback to both accountability efforts, the West's moral authority on human rights, and the credibility of the United Nations itself. The United States, Canada, and Britain were among the countries that brought the motion. U.S. warships with South Korea and Japan trained to shoot down North Korean missiles. United States warships from the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group teamed up with South Korean and Japanese destroyers to practice shooting down missiles in the Sea of Japan on Thursday, a show of force following multiple launches from North Korea this week. Quote, the exercises also demonstrate the deep strength of our trilateral relationship with Japan and the Republic of Korea, which is resolute against those who challenge regional stability, Pentagon Press Secretary Brigadier General Pat Ryder said during a press briefing on Thursday. The guided missile cruiser USS Chancellorsville and guided missile destroyer USS Benfold joined one South Korean vessel and two Japanese destroyers in the Sea of Japan for the exercise, according to the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. NASA's SpaceX Crew 5 astronaut mission arrives at the International Space Station. NASA's SpaceX Crew 5 mission arrived at the International Space Station on Thursday afternoon. The agency said that the Dragon Endurance spacecraft docked at the complex shortly after 5 p.m. Eastern Time. NASA astronauts Nicole Mann and Josh Cassada Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Koichi Wakata and Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kakina joined the expedition's 68 crew. The trip to the space station lasted 29 hours, and the crew is scheduled for a stay of up to 6 months before returning to Earth next year. And those are your news headlines for October the 7th of 2022.